Welcome, Wastelanders, to our fourth episode of All Out of Stimpaks, a Fallout theory and discussion podcast. I'm your host for this episode, Dylan, also known as Ghoul_City. I'm joined by my co-hosts Nick from Fallout True Facts, Oliver from Civil Fallout, and we have a guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I am Nikki, or Tunnelsnakesfool is my alias.
And you got a little clout in the Fallout community going on. You're a little famous in the community. You want to talk about that a little bit? What that's all about? Well, you're on a couple of articles. I have one from IGN up here.
Yes. So after the Fallout show came out, Fallout Chad, who does the charity podcast for Fallout 76, posted like, hey, it would be really cool if we knew where the cities were in this one specific screenshot where they show all the vaults in the background. And I was like, oh, I can do that in like 10 minutes. I was like a month away from having a master's in geography. I was like, whatever, let's go. So I pulled it into ArcGIS Pro and I geo-referenced it, which is just taking familiar locations. The Great Lakes were a big one. Baja California was on there, is easy to see. And I put it over the US, and basically now we have an idea of where all the vaults are in the Fallout show at that period of time of the show. Obviously they could have changed after that plan was shown, but and then a bunch of people saw it and I got a bunch of articles written about me, and then I got my last name released, which was fun. So it's been an experience.
Hey, docs over it.
Yeah.
We love when articles docs their the references. We love that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I'm so happy. I want to do this cool little thing, make a Fallout map, and there's my last name.
Yeah.
It's my last name and social security number. All right.
No, thank God, but all of those got leaked recently, so we'll see how that goes.
Ooh.
Not by me, just all of the US, but
it happens. See, now everyone's is out there, so no one wants to mess with it because
even playing field.
Yours out there. I'm all safe.
You'll have your time. Don't you worry. You'll have your time.
No. Yeah, so I think one of the more interesting things that we got out of the map was finding out that we do have a vault in Canada. It's very far from the border. There's like some stuff when you geo-reference like a photo from a background image, it's kind of challenging. But I'm very confident that there's at least one vault in Canada. It's like right on the border of two provinces, and there's definitely a vault in Baja, Mexico. So.
Oh yeah.
Love that. So, that's what the ghosts are that they're exploring in Baja. Vault
of Ghosts, supernatural. So last episode we talked about the mysterious stranger, right? No, the second episode is the one I want to talk about. We talked about the connection, crazy theory throughout about Harold and Bob and the interloper. Right.
Oh, God.
I just want to bring this up. We'll move on to the actual topic. So I actually tweeted at Emil Pagillo, I think is how you pronounce it. I tweeted at him asking, is there any connection between Bob and Harold and the interloper and visitor? And I got nothing back. He didn't reply. Yeah, no, I don't think he saw it.
It
was a few days ago.
I thought you were going with that. Oh
no, it was a few days ago. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he's offline now, isn't he?
No, he's tweeting.
No. I thought he went offline.
I tried to calculate when he would be online the day before. All right, he tweeted 31 minutes ago at 3:00. So, yeah, no, got nothing back.
That's funny.
It's too bad it wasn't a question for Josh Sawyer because he will respond.
Oh yeah, he'll respond to anything. He's a cool guy.
He loves doing that and just posting what's he's listening to on music nowadays.
In a bike.
Yeah, and bikes. Here's
my old car. Here's my bike.
I love it. Okay, so I guess going back into the mapping and whatnot, because this is obviously the most interesting part of this conversation. So I guess, for those of you who have never seen any of your content information and or articles for some weird reason, how difficult was it in the terms of how well did things line up? Obviously, the map was a large general scale, right? But like, how can you go in more specific detail about that?
So, I think the biggest challenge was that it wasn't like normally when you get mapping data, you get satellite data images that I have a background. Did I say that? My background's geography, so this is like what I do. But you get images that are flat, right? And then you georeference them however you want to do it. It is a lot of just visual matching things to things. Like I've worked for Apple Maps. It's taking a lot of pictures and matching them to where the roads are in reality and like moving points. It's not that technologically advanced other than that you're using really complicated software. So it wasn't too challenging. If you have that overlay on your computer right now on the Google Earth, you could see a lot of the the coasts where you see the outline of the United States, like in the Gulf of Mexico. There's a lot of points where I can reference in the like point of Baja California in the like inside of it. There's very specific like sharp edges. You kind of just match those up in at least like 4 corners and you can get the map to like adjust. It'll stretch some areas, it'll shrink others, it'll warp it a little bit. As you see on the globe, it's wrapped around the globe. So it wasn't too challenging. What was challenging was it's the background image of a show, not like flat mapping data. So
it's not the best picture.
So there are some
20 frames.
Yeah, there's some offsets and things like that. But overall, I felt like it was pretty relatively easy. Where it gets a little wacky is like where the people are. Obviously, I couldn't reference behind them. And I did get a separate image to get like the vault you see in Florida up on there. But yeah, no, it wasn't too hard. It did take some time to adjust everything. But those points on the map are lights, so they're huge. Like geographically, they're going over probably 50, 60 to 100 miles, depending on where it is in the map. So the precision is general, so that helps as well. If that answers your question.
No, totally. I love that. And we also see that you also put on the different maps from the different games, or at least the certain games. So how is the I guess how does that line up? How well did some maps line up compared to others?
Yes. Okay. So I already knew this because I had been working on this like a few years back in grad school when I wasn't as good at georeferencing. Now I'm like, it's easy. But I had actually tweeted at Josh Sawyer on Twitter and I was like, hey, so I'm pulling your map into geography software. Can you say anything about it? And he was like, oh yeah, we scaled it. It's 125, I believe is the scale they used. And they used USGS data. So it's literally just elevation data for if you zoom in on New Vegas, except they clipped along the Colorado River and expanded it because they scaled it down 25 times. And he said that you'd be able to jump across the Colorado unless they had expanded it. So I thought that was really interesting.
As you do, as you jump across Colorado.
Yeah. But that one was super easy to do. All of the little ridges you see on that map represent real ridges on
that's cool.
Yeah. So what I do is I just get elevation maps that are like, they look like heat maps almost. It'll be like bright red at the top of a peak and green at the bottom. And they match up really well to what you see on that map. Same goes for Van Buren's map, obviously non-canon, but I wanted to include it anyway. That one, you could tell, super accurate. The only thing I noticed in that one is the lakes are smaller because, that map's from now 20 years ago, so that's a little depressing. Yeah, like Salt Lake is a lot smaller.
Oh, wow.
And then Fallout 1 and 2 are pretty much matches, except the coastline has some funky stuff to it. But overall, they're clearly using USGS elevation data. The stuff from the 90s could just be the fact that it's data from the 90s and it's older. And now we have new data. I don't think there's massive erosion happening anywhere on these maps to change the coastlines drastically. Operation Anchorage, total perfect scaled, no warping, definite, because it's a small area. 100% just USGS data. And then the fallouts I left off, as you noticed, they're not using real data at all. They're incredibly warped. I could show you a picture of it. I'll send it over to you, but it looks weird. So, yeah, that's it. They're using real data for the old maps, which makes sense because, it's, you're not running through the entire wasteland. It's top down. It's the isometric fallouts are different play style. So it makes sense to me why they'd use real data. I understand why they didn't use real data on the East Coast because they had to warp it to be something walkable, which makes sense to me.
Yeah. Is Far Harbor, how is that map compared to? It's awful too.
Everything you see here is things that were relatively, I think, the pit, as you can see if you zoom in on it, incredibly warped. But it is representative, more or less. Far Harbor, Point Lookout, they don't represent it too well. So, not to say it's bad, I can get a map on there, but it is warped in a lot of places. And then 76 is just, it's an artistic map, so it's kind of hard to say, this map is accurate, so.
Yeah.
One thing that two things, and you kind of brought it up, that stand out is the Canada. I think it's a little west of Winnipeg. There's that Canadian vault, and one in Baja, California. Which is, I know, Canada was annexed, and was Mexico annexed as well? Is that canon?
Canada sure was. I don't think Mexico was absolutely.
Mexico?
Was it?
Mexico was in the process of being annexed. I'm not sure if
That's
it's fully
it, yeah.
completed, but it was largely taken over by the US. But it's just because it's part of the basically resource line that they just took over because it was a problem. Similar reason why they took over Alaska, pretty much because they said that it's just Canada, because they said it was interfering with their supply lines if they didn't have it.
To Alaska, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think's going on in that Canadian vault? Because I have some ideas. They're not happy ideas. But I don't know. Just have you guys thought about that at all? What is going on inside that Canadian vault?
The vault dwellers get electrocuted if they say A. That's a whole experiment. They say A once they get electrocuted.
It's got to be the cruelest experiment.
Turn them into Americans.
I mean, Canada is part of the US basically in the canon, right? Because of the annexing. So I wonder if it would be any different. Part of what I thought is they keep a lot of those in reality, those silos full of all of the different plants and viruses and things like that in cold climates. This would be colder than anywhere else in the US besides Alaska. So I was what if they're doing some kind of storage like that up there? I know it's not probably as freezing as where they actually keep them in reality, but that was one of my thoughts about it. It would be slightly colder than the US, although North Dakota is pretty cold. So
I was thinking it's going to be because we see in the Fallout 1 introduction where supposedly maybe not Nate executes some Canadians. I'm thinking that vault can't have. It's got to be the cruelest experiments when they were going through what they would do. They're like, all right, this is way too screwed up for Americans. We got one in Canada. We already kind of annexed them very violently. So let's do something crazy in there.
Oh, so you think this is the worst of the worst? Is up in Canada?
Oh yeah. It'll make Vault 87 look like childcare.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
Just the worst possible things.
It's just what you think about Canada, though, doesn't it?
I'm just saying. No. Canada's cool. Canada's cool.
Sure. You're just putting the words in the developers of Fallout's mouths.
I don't know.
Did he tweet that? He tweeted that, didn't he? Or was it a joke?
Emil made that tweet. Yeah, he made that tweet. Then he was like, no.
Yeah, he took that back.
Okay. He was just kind of popping off after the show.
It's canon. It's truth now.
No, he took it back, didn't he?
He took it back. He was
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
he
this
took
is a role play experience. You know, it can be anything you want it to be."
No.
Yeah, that's it. That's what he said. It's a role play experience. It could be whatever you want. Yeah.
I don't know. People took that and they ran. They ran with it. Now it's
Oh,
like
yeah, of
Nate the
course.
Rake.
Nate's just
'cause
committing war crimes.
that's why he married Nora to kind of represent him as a lawyer. Like that's how they got together.
Yeah, they
Because of
fell in
war
love.
crimes. He dated a lawyer.
It's like the Joker and Harley Quinn.
Oh my
Now
god.
Nora's just as bad.
Yeah. Just all
Nora.
evil. Mm.
The synth. That's my personal theory.
Oh.
You think so? Wait, you think the Soul Survivor is synth?
No, I think specifically if you play as Nora, she's a synth because she
Okay, yeah,
doesn't
about
get
that.
the backstory. She has no backstory. Like she doesn't have a cutscene before, right? Like you get the whole war never changes speech from Nate, but you get nothing from
Mhm.
Nora. You're like, look at my diploma.
Law.
You know, like that's
Law
it
never
for her.
changes.
And like the whole I don't know if you guys have been following the war never changes like debate, the capitalism thing that's happening right now on
Oh
Twitter.
Yeah.
But part of me has been through this whole thing thinking about how like all of the protagonists in this war never changes narrative are like canonically male, right? I know it's role playing, whatever, but
Mhm.
Nora, not having like part in that war necessarily as like that character, I wonder if she is a synth like intentionally because she has near no backstory. She can use power armor. You know, like there's so many different things that make no sense for a civilian to be able to do with regards to Nora that it makes sense that Nate can do it. I know that it's also probably just them focusing more on the male character like than the female one, but that's my backstory to justify it.
And that's my TED
Total
talk. Thank
tangent.
you.
Yeah. Thank
Crash
you.
and Carla can use power armor. And Mama Murphy. They steal
Right,
my
but,
power
like-
armor.
Spawn Murphy
Also-
has a strength of 19. That's why she can do it. She's
Also,
a
to be
tank.
fair, like we're saying about Nora being able to do it, but clearly you've never been to law school. You don't know what they do. Like power training might be very integral to to Fallout law training.
What
Late
kind
stage
of law do you think
capitalism
she
law
does?
school.
Criminal, like
Yeah.
criminal defense. It's got to be with Nate.
With Nate, yeah.
Court martials.
Court martial.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
War crimes specifically.
Yeah, war
She focuses like in on Geneva Convention violations, things like that, you know. He'd go to military court if that were the case, not civilian court. That's how it
Mhm.
works. In case you didn't know. Sorry. You keep me on track, guys.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
I think
it's funny because
it's
go for it.
No, you go for it.
It's-
Oliver
I'm
goes
going
for it. Oliver,
I'm going for it. We're taking it. So I think flipping back to the whole Canadian Vault thing, I think I love the prospect of going to Canada exploring because, like, I'm assuming the annexation was not a very peaceful process as kind of the shooting civilians was looking. So I'm assuming there'd be a lot of hatred, especially after the war, about what America did. Because there'll be like descendants, people, even ghouls who survived, who basically watched their families being like brutalized by the Americans in the annexation. So I'd be very interested to see of like also how the hell how Vaultec would even be able to sell a vault, because obviously an American corporation have been like, you can trust us after we just shot your family, come join into our vaults. So that, like there'd probably a lot of distrust and hatred, even more than Vaultec already had, of people who had just watched their families being shot, and now have an American company saying, you can trust us, we'll keep you safe, don't worry about it. So seeing how they got them in there, where there was trickery involved, where there's any sort of subterfuge, something like kind of an umbrella company that they used to be like, oh, we're just some Canadian company, come in. Like I'm just really interested to see how they managed to even sell that to them in any way for there to even be involved that way.
or maybe they weren't volunteers. They said, all right, you were a partisan fighter for the Canadian Army, or you kept rebelling after we annexed, so you're going to go in this vault, and you're going to... That's why I said those cruel experiments.
Yeah,
it's
just like a prison camp,
torture.
Nate.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was thinking that too, something like, like children
Sorry,
in this kind of
sorry,
vault.
Nikki, is everyone's...
Yeah, okay, I was going to say the same thing.
For me as well.
I think it's a loose wire or something. It just sounds like...
a bit crackly.
Yeah.
I don't interrupt, but in case it was just me, but I don't...
No, say I was about to do the same thing, so good on you, Oliver.
for telling me. This is like
Shame on you, Dylan. Dylan stayed silent in that.
Yeah,
I
was fine.
I was a silent bystander. I am just as guilty. I'm as guilty as Nikki. It might as well have been my mic messing up at this point. Because I did nothing to change it.
Dylan never changes.
Nope.
No.
Okay. Is it better?
Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah.
I gotta figure out what it is. It's something about streaming while using this mic. I don't know what it is, but how long was it bad for? I can go back and
just that last statement, really.
Okay.
That you were just talking about.
So circling back, it would be interesting if when annexing Canada, they used Canadian civilians as like soldiers, which is, something that historically has happened in the US. We use Japanese Americans as soldiers, force them to fight in World War II at the front lines, like a lot of the highest casualty rates were in that population group. What if they were doing that in Canada, in Alaska, and there's a lot of like women and children in this fault? Like, could there be an experiment around that? If that makes sense. Is that too dark? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's Fallout, so like anything's kind of on the table for Fallout, isn't it?
Yeah, they did kind of get a bunch of kids and say we're going to make the perfect superhuman soldier and experiment on children alive.
No.
So it's not below them. It's not beneath them.
Yeah. It's funny because whenever you brought up this first idea, Dylan, about like, it's going to be like the worst thing possible, I'm like, all right, come on. But, the more we go into it, that could seriously be something that happens, Like, it does make enough sense for speculation purposes.
How long can a human walk?
Yeah,
while inside out.
Oh God,
Vault-Tec approved experiment.
Oh, so oh God.
I don't know. That's just the worst thing I could think of.
Shifting gears. So looking at your map for a second, and excuse me, I have not counted. Is there 120 markers from it, or no?
Let me look.
From the lights, I don't. It doesn't look like there is.
1, 2.
There should be. Sorry, I have like 50 versions of it open on my computer. Let us look. There are 116 points on the map, but if you were to like zoom in around Los Angeles, we know from the show there's 3 vaults that are connected in Los Angeles. I would stand to reason that the 3 points that are in like Santa Barbara, Ventura County, Los Angeles proper, and then kind of like in the valley are not the 3 vaults represented in the show because they're separated. So I would imagine that one point that's like right above the boneyard, if you also have that map open, is the 3 vaults that we see in the show, and potentially some of the other vaults from Fallout 1. Maybe. Just because those points of light are absolutely massive, and I do think some of them represent multiple vaults that are near each other.
So did you find so obviously there's the light points that represent the different points of where on the map. Do you find like some of the lights were brighter than others at all, or were they all pretty much the same?
They're all the same.
They're all the same in that regard.
The distance from the camera, yes, but overall they're all like the same. And I looked at it too, like this map I used with the lights on, but I also had an overlay that I didn't publish public, which was the lights off, which you see briefly in that scene while they're like teeing it up to turn them on. And it's the same geographically where everything is. It doesn't like sharpen it that much more. So and then I did do some, if you have the map open and you could see the triangles on the map, I did do some like shifting towards cities in certain ones because there is offset in the map that I made in the nature of taking a 3D object and putting it on a flat thing and then spreading it over another 3D object globe. There's, there's areas where it might not be exact, but if that makes sense.
No, for sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, looking at this map, we see there's some clear clusters of vaults, and kind of wanted to try to avoid it because it seems like it's something everyone talks about, is who's Fallout 5 gonna be? Where do we want Fallout 5 to be? But I was thinking we could probably speculate more accurately based off your map where Fallout 5 could be, because every single one of I could be wrong. Every single one of Bethesda's Fallouts have been centered around, at least in the beginning, coming from a vault, be it Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Fallout Shelter, Fallout TV show. Everyone has come from a vault. Every single Fallout has had multiple vaults. And that kind of narrows down a lot of places, because there's clearly not going to be Fallout Indiana. I think that's out of the question.
Oh.
Or
rest in peace.
Yeah, Indiana. Anyone who's watching from there, if Fallout happens, I'm sorry, you're out of luck. You're, I think, one of the only states that don't have any vaults. Yeah.
Well, to answer your question, I have long maintained San Francisco is going to be the next Fallout game. I don't know if that's changed with the show because, there were interviews where Todd Howard was like, showrunners asked about certain spots and we told them no for the next because they already want to cover it. I don't know if Todd Howard will ever move from an East Coast Fallout game, but I have always said San Francisco because we see Kellogg's Memories are in San Francisco. Obviously, we haven't had a 3D title in that area yet. I know everybody's going to be like, wow, we already have a Fallout game there. It covers all of Northern California. It's a huge geographical space. It's the third largest state, you could fit like most of Europe in California. So I think it would be cool. And there's a vault in Fairfield, which is like east of the bay. So I think it would be a reasonable geographical area. And then there's one like in Santa Rosa area north of there. So that's my theory.
I think it's definitely. I think before the Free to Fallout TV show, I'd be like, nah. I feel like they're lining up for a little while for somewhere more like Chicago, somewhere like that, because there's been references to the Enclave having remnants there. But I think the Fallout TV show basically throwing the Pridwin literally east or west coast means that they're not afraid to throw really their big flagship of Fallout 4, quite literally, all the way across the coast, which shows that the Brotherhood are going over there, which is something Bethesda is certainly not afraid of utilizing as a faction, but also I'm assuming Maxon or whoever's leading them has gone that way as well. So I'm thinking, well, if that kind of very focus of Fallout 4 is shifting, then I really wouldn't be surprised to know that actually Bethesda are looking themselves to go a bit more West Coast this time as well. So actually, wouldn't be too surprised if it was San Francisco.
It'd be cool. And I think I've talked about this a lot, but there's so much foreshadowing. Not that they had decided when they were making Fallout 3, but they kind of obviously looked back at Fallout 3 when they were making Fallout 4 and were like, oh, did at the Commonwealth consistently. In my personal opinion, the best synth/android quest is from Fallout 3. Not from Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Sorry, Todd. You're never going to see this, so it'll be fine. But I think that quest, it's when they're calling them androids. Obviously, the Replicated Man quest is one of the best synth quests. But I think what they did is they looked at their existing game and they were like, where did we talk about that's related, and where can we draw these connections? Obviously, lore-wise, but also you bring in a fan base that's already existing when you pull that back in and kind of inspire excitement about the game. Oh, I get to see a character like Liberty Prime. Oh my god, that was one of the coolest things to see again after you guys were around during the long wait where we were all Survivor 2299. It was insane how so
Fallout New Orleans.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I remember seeing that trailer.
Oh boy.
Well, that's how Maddie got his start, was covering all of that, so good for him. Yeah, so I would hope that they go back to Fallout 4 and kind of do something similar, and I felt like Kellogg's story, being so firmly implanted in the West Coast as his starts was so interesting, and it would be really cool to set the game in the past even. I know that's not the norm for them, but wouldn't it be cool to set it between Fallout 1 and 2? There's a big time jump between those two. And get to see certain characters we've already seen, because we don't fully know, as I understand it, I don't have it memorized, but how old Kellogg is, because he is a synth, partially, or cyborg, whatever you want to call it.
Well, So he was around. I mean, we could probably guess. So he's probably what, like 10? We could guesstimate whenever the NCR was founded. So we could probably guess around. But anyway, yes,
that's
you're
when
right.
they were annexing. They were integrating new states. Is when he was 10, right? What was the state that got integrated during in the radio? You can hear it.
We're gonna have to Google. Sorry.
Was it like the Hub or Junktown or?
Is it one of those big ones?
It would be the whatever San Francisco is.
It
right?
was the Hub.
It was the Hub.
Nice.
So when was the Hub integrated to this?
We probably don't have that.
I just checked some lazy, and it's 108. He's 108 years old.
Oh,
so the inside had just been founded, basically.
So my theory is, like, couldn't they go and see a younger version of Mercenary Kellogg, like that would be in another game, like
have him be a companion, or
something like that where they connect it.
Oh my god!
No, that would be kind of cool. Like you could see maybe like. Because in Fallout 4, we kind of, besides the flashbacks, we see, oh, this is the villain, I'm going to kill him. And maybe we get to see more of his tragic... I think he's one of the best written characters in Fallout 4. That's just my personal opinion with Kellogg's character. He's one of my favorites. But maybe see more of his tragic, sad story that turned him into the person he is. Maybe that's not the direct plot, but it's like a side quest. Maybe a big, cool one.
So this we're assuming that we're basing because obviously we have seen all the other like you said Fallout 3 that references where it's going to be. That's assuming that Fallout 4 is referencing where the next one is going to be. Instead, is it going to be 76 that's referencing where the next game is going to be? Because in Fallout 4 we see at the very beginning
series.
I mean, but still, right? We see in Fallout 4 it directly references Vault 76 and the opening of that. So maybe that was that reference to the next game. And maybe 76 is going to reference that. Again, doesn't necessarily mean it, but it's possible it's going to be there as well.
I think, but just my personal theory on it all is that the main series games, not that they're separate canologically, but like storytelling wise, they are separate from the spin-off games. Obviously with like Bethesda not talking a lot about New Vegas beyond the Fallout show, which everyone is like, Todd Howard ruined New Vegas with the show. Todd Howard didn't write the show. I met the writer of the show. He loves the games. He particularly loved Fallout 1 and 2. He like told me repeatedly how much he loved them. So like, I don't think they hate the lore or anything like that. That's what I'm saying, to throw that out there. But I think those kind of stand alone, and maybe there would be hints. But I also wonder too, like with 76, do they want to keep the East Coast open for 76 expansions at this point? Because that game is only continuing to improve and grow as time goes on. Like, oh my gosh, where it was in 2018 is not.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, you remember when we played that beta on the Xbox, and that was a mess. Like it was. But I've been playing it, and it's been pretty fun. I like Atlantic City. That's one of my favorite spots.
Yeah.
Just the.
So I'm curious, like. Not to be like, you're wrong, no, or anything like that, but like I wonder if they're keeping a lot of that area around, like literally all of West Virginia. It's basically the whole state, near it, like open for expansions, and that would be East Coast and that kind of Virginia area where like Fallout 3 is too. So I don't know. This is also just me speculating and hoping that we get something out west. I would love. It's where I live.
It's just you wanting to push San Francisco being trying to make it fit into your theory. It's like, all right, it has to be here. Yeah, I got you.
I do think, and not that like when they made Fallout, just to be super clear, like when they made Fallout 3, I don't think they knew where Fallout 4 was going to take place. From what I've read, all they had for Fallout 4 for years was Nick Valentine, the character. Not anything beyond that. So then they chose the location after the fact. So I thought that was like, okay, they obviously looked back on what they had previously made, and they were like, what did we talk about that we could expand on? And I wonder if they could do that with the Fallout 4 to Fallout 5. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember seeing, and I think Emil confirmed it when I asked them about it, saying that they originally scoped it to be Fallout 4 to be set in New York. That's what their original plans were going to be, and then they kind of changed that. But yeah, as you're saying, that Nick was between New York, there's more to be a setup, and then they kind of changed that a little bit to be more regarding Boston, things like that. So it could quite easily shift realistically.
And I think a big theme with Fallout 2 is like all of these cities in the 3D Fallout specifically have like history and architecture that are like interesting and compelling. It's not like sorry, Fallout Fallout 1. We're not in Bakersfield, California, in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like there is obviously Los Angeles is in there too, but it's different for the isometric ones. But San Francisco is like so geographically interesting to look at. I think it would be interesting to have like a very hilly Fallout game. It is a it's a city on a hill, basically. And then to have like, I don't know, Coit Tower would be really cool to see there, and like all the other geographical like landmarks and things like that. But it's an interesting city, and it is also really dense. So there would be like the outlying Bay Area as well, could be up for grabs, all the way. Shit, they could go to Silicon Valley. Sorry, I swore. Bleep me if you need to. Stuff like that. But
well, yeah, you brought up a good point there. With each of the Bethesda Fallout games have been in a like American historic city, like DC, the capital, Boston, the birthplace of the Revolution with the Boston Tea Party, things like that. Fallout 76 with, and then Vegas. So I didn't have anything for 76. I don't know.
Is that why you just try to skip over that without saying anything?
But that does bring up a good point, because one of the spots I was trying to judge mine off of clusters of vaults was Kansas City, with Kansas and Missouri have that little 3, just looking at the map, has that 3 vaults right there, and we could have 2 separate states. And with Kansas City, I don't know, I have in my headcanon, fanon, whatever, cool little civil war in Kansas City between 2 factions of, who owns Kansas City. But kind of with that historic precedent that you said earlier, I can't think, I didn't even know Kansas City existed before the Super Bowl. So I don't know what historic precedent it has.
Not much.
I was shocked to find out the Kansas City Chiefs were not from Kansas. They're from Missouri.
That's right on there.
From the other
from Kansas.
Oh boy!
But that's just one where it has a clump of vaults.
No,
so you have to have multiple vaults.
What I could definitely see happening, if it's not like West Coast, like San Francisco or something like that. I think Houston is a very good
Fallout Brotherhood Steel. It's been done
exactly.
Right
there's a ton of vaults. It's right. They could go full on like the Alamo. Well, it's on. Where is
Alamo's pretty south.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Alamo's
it's because it's closer to it. But anyway, they can go full on to a new formation of like the Texas Republic. Like you can go a lot more interesting ways. I feel like Houston could be a very good candidate.
I would love, like, anywhere in Texas would be interesting.
Totally.
Just because Texas is like, this is gonna sound weird. It's such a foreign state to me as a Californian. Like, I went there for the first time this year, and I was like in Austin, so I didn't get a great representation of the actual Texas, as everyone likes to tell me. But yeah, so it would be interesting. My other one is Louisiana in New Orleans area. Would be so cool. Think of the cryptids with the culture, like Creole culture down there. Oh, it'd be so awesome. That
could be so fun. You have so much fun with like the paranormal too, and like psychics, and it could be that. Don't even get me started. That's something I would love to see as well.
See, go ahead. Oh, okay. With Texas and Houston, we have the issue of the hit 2004 action role-playing game published by Interplay Studios for PS2 and Xbox, the 6th generation consoles. Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, which takes place right there. So I
thought it was.
Well, it's not canon.
I don't know if they want to push on that like staple of the Fallout universe.
Yeah, because everyone loves and remembers that game. Yeah.
I thought it was in Carbon, Texas. Does it also cover?
Man, I don't know. No one's played that game. I don't know.
And now, word from the fans.
What about you, Oliver? I don't think you said.
He just likes Fallout London. He just likes representation. Yeah, he's fine.
More England. No, so we're kind of saying about where places have vaults, and the longest time, I think, really since Vegas kind of hinted to it a little bit when Edie, I don't really care what people like to call him, but he basically, I think Edie makes sense, but like he basically references where he's going, and one of the places he mentions he's going to Chicago, which is one of the Enclave outposts, which the sort of TV show shows that Bethesda are not afraid. I'm assuming they signed off the plot, so it shows Bethesda are not afraid to admit the Enclave are still around. And I personally like the Enclave. I think they're due kind of a bit more of a comeback. They're definitely not a faction who are just going to vanish for a bit, considering the fact they have very steeped in kind of pre-war lore. So I could see, and especially since Chicago area, kind of region, at least has 3 or so vaults in that region, it could be prime for something happening there. I think it's a big jump to go mentioning the Enclave in any capacity, and then showing them in the Fallout TV show with seemingly quite a presence. Like, there's a massive research base going on with full guards and everything. They're not hiding in some bunker like the Brotherhood of Steel used to. So, like, they're clearly not afraid of them being around. So I think if you got some massive faction, which at some point was the biggest threat to the Wasteland, I think it makes sense that they might make some resurgence in somewhere like Boston, which previous games have established. If we're going to take a mill showing the timeline, including tactics, I think it would be a big jump to say, could it be a very prime spot of a showdown between the Brotherhood of Steel and the Enclave again, but more the Midwestern Brotherhood?
Oh, that would be amazing. I also would love Chicago.
I think it would be so fun. Plus, the architecture would be, it matches up with everything else, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the architecture, like you would even get get like the park, Maggie Daly, like there would be so much cool stuff I love Chicago. It's one of my favorite cities. So, I mean, I'm up for it. Let's go. I think it would be cool to also we got it in Boston with the baseball team, with the Red Sox, which they never named. It would be cool to have Chicago for that reason, for the Cubs, for the White Sox, for the Bears. Like, just the culture of sports in Chicago is so strong and factionized. Like, I wonder if you'd be like going to White Sox part of town and then going to the Cubs part of town, because that's how it is in Chicago now. So, like, that would be a really cool.
I think that would be pretty cool, because like Oliver mentioned the Midwestern Brotherhood of Steel. And I've seen people get confused on this. They're not good people by any means. They practice slavery. They practice they There's the Legion with power armor in a sense. So it'd be very interesting to see evil faction versus evil faction, and kind of go more maybe into a gray area of who's going to be not as evil, or maybe a third underdog faction that comes out on top. There were people who are just trying to survive in the middle of this high technology conflict, while everyone else is barely scraping by, and then you have these 2 power armored factions fighting over old world ideologies. I think that'd be very, very cool.
And going off what you just said, I think it'd be really interesting too, because we're seeing obviously a shift in ideology of the Brotherhood of Steel, right? We're starting to see, especially in the TV show, that they are no longer really like the prize, like the show pony, right? The show pony of how great they are, right?
Lions is gone.
Exactly. So like, as we can see in if we see it in Chicago and this chapter of the Brotherhood, and you could see how bad they are, it could be that shift of being like, okay, they were a really good group and like good guys seen in Fallout 3, and this is like what other parts, if not, it's becoming. I think that'd be really
Lions was definitely an outlier. In the Brotherhood, he was like, I'm gonna be good.
Yeah.
Everyone else,
everyone else like that. Make the sign of the cross
because he's gone.
Oh, okay.
I think as well.
Rest in peace.
I think as well. So one thing I love doing is trawling through art books, storyboards, kind of seeing what the original visions were. And one thing for Fallout 3, which I find really interesting, is something they didn't go along with, is there's basically a picture of the Enclave, and it basically has the tagline saying the Enclave, heroism overcame hatred, which showing the Enclave actually might have been more the good faction. And so in particular, I think there's something, and I think the figure looks like who's in front of the Enclave looks like Autumn. So I'd be very interested. So you're saying like, a battle between kind of not even slightly evil, the very evil Brotherhood of Steel in the Midwest. But it might be interesting to actually see a bit of the flip of the script, where actually the Enclave are actually the nicer of the region.
Maybe that would, yeah.
Again, maybe Autumn goes there. He vanished. I'm pretty certain it's like canon. He pretty much escapes in Fallout 3. So perhaps he went to the Midwest, and he's now leading a bit more of bit of a nicer kind of just wanting to assert some sort of authority and government there. And then you've got kind of the more kind of cultic evil Midwestern Brother Steel, who might be seeing kind of a backing from whatever's going out west. So you got maybe a setup for a bit of a different setup where the Enclave are a bit smaller once again with the Brother Steel facing against them, but actually they are just a nicer group this time. And
that would be really...
That would be interesting. That'd be really fun.
She's a techno tribal Brotherhood of Steel versus we just want some sort of authority military dictatorship enclave.
Yeah.
You know, like one's really military dictatorship, and then that sucks. And then you also have tribal techno cult that also sucks. And people are going to go in there with that bias of because we've seen every single game the Enclave are like
evil,
most mortally evil faction, and now players are going to go in there. You know, little Game of Thrones subvert the expectations. You know, we go in thinking, oh, look, Enclave, I'm going to shoot them on sight. And then, I turned the corner after I shot them, and they were handing out free purified water to civilians or something like that.
Yeah, to be fair, it wouldn't be against Bethesda to flip the script. I argued a lot that they did that between Oblivion and Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls, where the Oblivion, for the longest time, the Empire was kind of seen as this big friendly thing. Like, it was just kind of keeping order, and in Oblivion, like, the Emperor is basically your best bud. Like, full tears when he like sacrificed himself. So you kind of grew to love the Empire. It seemed like just a good, stable entity. And then by kind of Skyrim, it's seen as this kind of like desperate, kind of quite evil group that you really want to be kind of removing their shackles from Skyrim. These Stormcloaks are very much so from the very point of reading the wrong thing. From the very point of Skyrim, where they're trying to execute you, the Empire are very much set up as the bad guys that you can join with, but realistically, it's time for the independent Skyrim. So for them to potentially do that same sort of flip script again, where the Brotherhood have always been seen, albeit with some exceptions, as generally some sort of stable entity where wherever they are, they at least keep order to some extent, even if they're not always their best. But actually, this time they're seen as kind of the evil ones who are actually imposing upon what is the Midwest. Maybe the Enclave have been there for a while and they've just been keeping order, and now the Midwest are actually coming in and being more the aggressors. So you have to kind of, everybody's saying about biases, have to reassess that and be like, well, actually, the Enclave are the ones just doing good here.
Yeah, it could be the lions, the elder lions of the Enclave there.
So I'm saying with Autumn as well, because Autumn showed to be definitely the better between him and Eden. He's like, look, I don't want this whole like FEV purifier like crap. I just want the purifier to like maintain order in the region, which I think
the credit for it. Yeah,
and Eden's like poison.
Yeah, no, I think that could be interesting, and we have that reoccurring character of Eden, and I don't think anyone from like a character standpoint, I don't think anyone hated the character of Eden. I think he's pretty much
Autumn.
Autumn. My bad. I don't think anyone hated the character of Autumn. I don't think people were like, "Oh, that character was so stupid. He sucked. We don't want to see him again." I don't think anyone's ever been like that. I think he's kind of a fan favorite. Maybe I'm pushing it.
Maybe I don't know if I would call him a fan favorite, but he wasn't. He wasn't hated.
He wasn't hated or disliked.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and to be fair, like reoccurring characters in the Fallouts we have seen, they aren't necessarily. Most of them are just kind of not say side characters, but like just like I mean, McCready's like the only one that I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like I really like that one. Other than that, you get Dr. Madsen. It's like, well. Yeah, she's all right. Yeah,
you got Bob and Harold.
That's true. I
was excited when I saw Dr. Lee for the first time, which
really
is a random character. I was like, I'm signing with Brotherhood. I gotta keep her alive. She helped birth me in Fallout 3. She was the midwife, like kind of energy. I was like excited about her. I don't think it was the same voice actor or anything, but I don't know. McCready is pretty main character in. Not main character, but important character in 2 games, which is fun. So, sorry. And also Liberty Prime. Come on, we're forgetting Liberty Prime.
Oh yeah,
that is true. Liberty Prime is always the main character. It's hard to say not.
So one thing I noticed on this map, and again, just going off the cluster of vaults for the next Fallout game theory, we only really have, unless people found more. Not including states we've already been to, we only really have 4, technically 5, with Kansas and Missouri. 4 big clusters, which is Houston, Texas, Chicago. Atlanta has 2 right by it. And then Kansas City / Missouri. So, not to sound like a doomer, and I'm sure we probably will never see the end of the series in our lifetime, but does that give us a limit on how many Fallout games there's going to be by Bethesda, at least?
They're going to take it to the moon.
Maybe.
I have a theory on that. I honestly think the next Fallout game is the last one, at least by Bethesda or Todd Howard.
If we see it in our lifetime.
I hope so. I'm thinking 2030.
Yeah, that's when it'll be. Like, maybe announced in 2028, but it won't be. It'll be an Elder Scrolls 6 moment where it's announced and almost a decade
Elder
later.
Scrolls 6 was, 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
What a year that was. 76 came out. Yeah, I don't think we will get a Fallout game after Todd retires from Bethesda unless they sell the IP. Or find a successor to the people. I mean, like, Pete is already gone, and he's a big part of it too. He's retired now, so I don't know. Unless they do throw Obsidian in another bone, and Josh Sawyer gets another one again before he retires, because he's in his 50s now, I believe, or just.
Oh, he looks good for 50 then.
He looks good.
He's a very handsome guy.
He's a very good-looking guy.
I hope my girlfriend
not been shy about that.
You're here just simping for Joshua Sawyer.
He's right over there. I hope she didn't hear that.
Yeah, he's fine. I agree. The tattoos, making one of the best games of all time. Come on, let's go. He's cute, but I don't know if we'll get another one after 5. That's where I'm at with it, and I'm like, I'd be happy if 5 was like an absolute banger, and they were like, all right, we're gonna let the show go for 7 seasons until you guys beg us to end it or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I would like more side games. Like Obsidian was a side game, and then you have studios, especially after the massive success of Baldur's Gate 3. You have Larian, who said we would totally do a Fallout game. So maybe we'll get more of Bethesda kind of passing Fallout around for, hey, do it in this style, do it in the top-down turn-based again. Maybe a Fallout kart racer. Give it to Nintendo for a bit.
That is true. Sven did say he was one of the only other IPs he would be interested in covering was Fallout.
But I think he would also be do the one game and done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he would just do one Fallout game, and people would be like, "No, make a second," and be like, "No, I don't want to."
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope they keep making games, but at this point, if it takes, we're at 9 years almost for Fallout 4 to now.
Mm-hmm.
9 years, almost exact. Like, we're nearing that time of year, right? Like, and obviously we're not going to get it before 10. Like, there's no way. So it'll be 10 years between 2 main series games, if not 13, 14, 15, So what I honestly think Fallout 5 will be the last for that reason, just because it takes so long. I don't know, unless you guys think it'll be like a Halo where they're just going to keep pumping them out, but...
I hope not. That sounds really bad.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it would really be... I could definitely see, because obviously Xbox owns Bethesda and all of them, right? So if anything, I could definitely see Xbox being like, all right, how about we just, start pumping out more games. But I don't know. I feel like that would happen after Todd left, retires, you said. I feel like right now it is safe from the milking strategy that a lot of other IPs have nowadays.
Yeah, and I honestly think Todd could retire before. He's not old or anything, but he's also freaking rich. So yeah, go to the Bahamas for the rest of your life, whatever, I wish, so I don't see him. I don't know. It depends on when Elder Scrolls. I talked to Juiced yesterday, and this dude gets leaks like crazy, and he was like, "Yeah, Elder Scrolls 6 is 2026," and I was like, "Okay, at least buy." So I'm like, maybe we will get Fallout soon after. I doubt it though, honestly. So
I think with you saying Halo, that sparked something. with Bungie. They did their Halo 3. This was their last game. Well, Halo Reach was the last game. Anyways, their last game was kind of their love letter to the series. We're going to do whatever we want. We're going to do the craziest stuff. We're going to take the longest production time to make like what we want. And maybe our Fallout 5 or maybe even Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be Todd's love letter to each of those series. And that's going to be, he's going to put everything into it. That's maybe, being a little optimistic. Maybe that's why it's taking so long. It's because he's putting a lot of heart and thought into it because he wants this to be the explosive finale of the series. And then after that, do your ODST side
And
games.
Elder Scrolls is his baby. Like,
yeah,
that is their IP. Like it's not something they purchased, whatever, right? So it would make sense, at least to me, for that to be Todd's last thing. I don't know. I'm sad because I feel like Todd is part of the sauce in getting a good Fallout game. From Bethesda specifically, obviously. And if it's not from him, I would be like, okay, then give it back to Obsidian, give it to some other dev with like younger team with fresh eyes or something, because I don't want to know really what Fallout would be from specifically Bethesda without like the main players who have always been part of it. But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, this episode's taking a sad turn.
Yeah, it could be happy. It could be like the little love letter from Todd. That's what I like to think of. It's gonna be as great as ever.
Time keeps ticking. These guys they're wealthy dudes and they can retire young, and more power to them. That's what I'm more.
Yeah,
that's happy for me. But yeah, so.
Yeah, but I want my games. I don't care if they're happy. I want my Fallout games.
I need content.
Yeah.
More thing.
Yeah. What am I supposed to do with my life if I don't have Fallout? Come on.
I can only meme the picture of that Freeside bug who's been exploded so many times. Please. Please. I need something.
He's merely resting. Is the other one I see that.
Oh, boy.
But do you have the guts?
You got some
Oh, God.
You got a lot of guts. You don't say.
The end.